We do have some new names.
Okay.
In the next chapter.
All right. Let's hear them.
Sirius.
That's a dog.
Rollo.
Definitely a dog.
Welcome to Inchworm,
the podcast in which we're inching through Worm. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ted.
And we read Buzz 7.1.
Starting a new arc. Buzz, buzz, buzz.
I feel like this is just like someone's name. Like we're going to read about Buzz Lightyear or something.
Yes, right. This is the one
Buzz Aldrin.
Crossover with Disney IP.
I knew it was coming. So yeah, this is an Undersiders Talk About Stuff chapter.
Yeah, pretty classic.
Several huge developments, though.
Yes. Yeah, some big developments and also some, like, just reestablishing the team dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't seen them all together, just kind of having a chapter in a while.
Yeah. Do you want to go into what happens?
I would love to. Yeah, let's do a summary. Okay, so we start with Brian and Taylor sparring. She's getting better. Lisa's kind of teasing them about how much they're enjoying it. And Brian's like, yeah, you know, you're making progress. You're good at learning this. There are a couple of moments of, you know, tension where Brian's like sitting on Taylor and Taylor's like dying a little bit. It's great. So then Alec shows up with coffee for everyone and they all have a group talk. Everyone gets on the couches. Brian's like, we should figure this out. And he suggests that this should not be a majority decision, the decision of whether to join Coil or not. He thinks that if anyone wants to say no, they should all say no. It should be a consensus or they shouldn't do it.
Pretty reasonable. It's good to prioritize seeming reasonable. And I bet he'll get exactly what he wants in this chapter.
Yeah. So he also brings up, like, Alec, we just found out this thing about your identity that, you know, Coil told us in the car about your dad. Care to fill us in some more? And Alec does. It turns out he is Heartbreaker's son. Heartbreaker is a villain, actually. He is someone who can manipulate emotions, kind of like Gallant, but long-term or even permanently.
Yeah.
And he has this, like, harem of women, basically, that he has manipulated into loving him. And basically, he's a cult leader. He has a bunch of kids. He does not seem to be very fatherly towards the kids, but he does like to have control over them. He likes to test them and discipline them. Alec was, like, his third or fourth kid to get powers. He was trying to create trigger events for all of them, but a lot of them are still babies, so I guess most of them don't have powers yet. Alec got powers, and I guess it was harder for his dad to manipulate his emotions after that, so he started kind of pushing his boundaries. He made him kill someone. So we find out Alec is the second murderer.
Oh.
And after that, Alec was like, oh, he's just going to keep making me do this. Like, I'm just going to leave. So he left, got a new identity. Now he's here. He did say his dad is really intent. Like, he doesn't want people to leave. He doesn't want the kids to leave. So if he found out Alec were there, he might send some of Alec's siblings after him.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so there is a potential danger there. Alec doesn't seem to be super concerned. He's like, if he comes after me, I'll just leave. And Brian's like, or we could have your back. And Alec's like, okay, sure, or that, I guess. So they switch back to talking about Coil. Alec feels like, this seems like a fine plan. Brian points out that they've been successful so far by picking their battles and being really prepared, catching their enemies off guard. If they're holding this territory, if, other villains or if the Protectorate comes against them, they'll be on the defensive, which will be a lot harder for them, more dangerous. Lisa thinks that they can work around that using her intelligence and also just, really good planning. Taylor thinks it's maybe too good to be true. What happens if it gets bad? Can they still walk away? And basically, the conclusion from the four of them who've spoken so far is they don't really know how this is going to go, but they'd rather be on the inside than sort of on the outside watching it happen.
Yeah.
But then Bitch speaks up and is like, nope, I don't trust him. He talks too much. And they sort of try to engage with her, and she's like, nope, I'm against it, so I guess that means we're not doing it. And Brian's like, yeah, but I thought we'd talk about it. And she's like, nope, I'm gonna go to work. Yeah. And Taylor's like, oh, let me come with you, because she realizes, like, she wants to be more connected to the Undersiders. She has to be proactive about this. And Bitch gets really mad, is like, you're just gonna try to, like, hassle me about this decision. Like, I don't need you to come with me and, like, ruin my day. And Taylor makes a deal with her. If Taylor brings up the Coil thing first, before Bitch does, so, like, Bitch can raise the subject, but Taylor can't. So if Taylor raises that subject, or if she ruins Bitch's day, Bitch gets a free shot at her. She can punch her wherever she wants. And the others are like, ooh, this is a really bad idea. But Taylor's like, no, this is like, I mean, in her head, she's like, this is the best way I can think of to reach out to Bitch. And so she goes for it. They're gonna go off together, take care of the dogs in the warehouses.
Wonderful.
I'm so psyched.
Yeah, this is what you've been wanting.
Well, she still hasn't researched dog communication.
Yeah, she had a beat in this chapter where she thinks about it.
Yes. But she still hasn't done any research, and she needs to do research.
Yes. Yeah.
But she does figure out, she's like, she wants to protest, like, no, I'm innocent. And she's like, oh, if I raise my hand sort of in that I'm innocent gesture, it's not going to read to Bitch the way it would to another human because she doesn't have that part of her brain active or whatever.
It's like, oh, she's getting bigger. She's
going to see it
quickly.
As an animal trying to make itself bigger. It's going to be an act of aggression. So she's like, no, okay, I just need to be very clear with words and not try to use any tone or body language to communicate this.
Yeah, it's interesting because Bitch is incredibly low trust, which is her read on Coil. She's basically like, I don't trust him. He talks too much. People who talk that much are always trying to manipulate you. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. You know, this is interesting given Coil's complete inability. Like, he thought he had something, right? But Bitch is clearly like, nope, that's not for me.
Well, it's funny. By saying, like, people who talk too much are never trustworthy, they're trying to hide something, she's sort of setting herself up as, like, I'm a good judge of character. When really, I think the situation is that people who try to communicate too much with her, like, someone communicating with her is a burden on her. She can't understand it. She can't interpret it. It's like it's sort of an imposition on her to be communicating with her. So I'm sure that she doesn't trust people who try to communicate with her because she can't read it, and that's just, like, a hard thing for her to deal with.
Yeah, and it would naturally lead to insecurity of like, oh, what am I missing? They're probably making fun of me. They're probably, being sarcastic. They're probably, it's like, being I know about all of
being
this,
threatening.
Deception and nuance.
Right,
that
she
I'm
knows
missing.
theoretically it could be there. She can't actually detect it. So, of course, someone who's trying to communicate with her a lot is going to come across as... Yeah.
But it's interesting that she does trust Taylor enough to make a deal.
Yeah. Well, Taylor's shown her through past actions that she will make a deal.
Right.
And also, Taylor hasn't been very talkative around her.
Right.
I think
that's
that
true.
Helps.
Right. Taylor is annoying, but she's probably the least annoying of the other Undersiders.
Right, because Lisa's very talkative. Brian's always with the threats, and he's big.
Yeah.
Like, at one point, he was like, oh, I need to put a stop to this thing that Taylor's trying with Bitch. And he starts to stand up, and Taylor puts a hand on his shoulder to keep him down.
I love that moment of Taylor being assertive. Like, I got this. Yeah. And that's, I think, also a really great little detail of something Taylor is doing now that she's all in. Oh, right? Yeah. Like, she's like, no, Brian. Like, I'm asserting. I'm going to assert myself. Yeah. I'm not going to just try and stay in the background. I'm not going to try and keep my hands clean.
She's like, no, I'm the heart of this group.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure out this thing with Bitch.
Yeah, and you're right that they have made at least one deal in the past, and Taylor has shown herself to be good on her word, and Bitch appreciates that, or at least, recognizes that it's gone well, and who doesn't like punching Taylor? If you know that she's good for it, right? That's the thing about Taylor.
Yeah, she would absolutely put her body on the line like that if it means that she gets to forge a closer connection with Bitch.
There was something Bitch said, like, she's basically is like, I don't want you to come with me. Like, I want to do my own thing. It was very much like, I don't want people to meddle in my space with my stuff. And it was reminding me a little bit of, like, Taylor feeling boxed in her last chapter.
Yeah.
And also, honestly, also a little bit what we get from Alec. I mean, we don't have to turn to him now, but the sort of like, he's just trying to get away from his awful dad. Yeah. And he's kind of like, yeah, let's do this because I'll make some money or whatever. But like, obviously, if my dad comes after me, I'll just leave. It's just a little bit like, he just wants to get away. Like, that's his main thing. Bitch just wants to be left alone. Like, I feel like there's a lot of commonalities between them, and they're sort of...
Well, they have somewhat similar upbringings, honestly. Like, they both were raised by people who, I mean, I'm extrapolating in Bitch's case, but like raised without strong ties to any like parental figures. They were both raised basically by people who abused and neglected them.
Yeah.
Is the implication.
Yeah.
And they're dealing with it in such different ways.
Right. Yeah, and Taylor is different because she has her connection to Danny, but maybe the loss of her mom and the bullying have put her in a similar space.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't have the same kind of, like, fundamental damage that Alec and Bitch have. Like, Alec and Bitch, as far as I can tell, have never had, like, a strong, loving family around them.
Yeah.
And Taylor grew up with one.
Yeah.
Like, she lost her mom a couple years ago. But, like,
a big difference.
She has always had at least one parent who loved her.
Yeah.
And that's just so... The psychological impact of not having that is huge.
Yeah. And
both Alec and Bitch are dealing with that.
Yeah.
And it's shaped them, and it's made Bitch aggressive, and it's made Alec flaky, basically.
Yeah. That's also kind of a nice way in which Taylor has something to offer.
Yeah.
She has the lived experience that she can use to reach out.
Right. And it's interesting, like, we don't know anything about Tattletale's past or family.
Yeah, she's been very tight-lipped.
Yeah, Brian is maybe in, like, sort of in the middle. Like, he had a dad who seems to have cared for him to some extent, doesn't seem to have, like, grossly abused him. It doesn't seem to have been a close or affectionate relationship.
Right.
And, you know, there was at least physical combat. But he does really prioritize family ties. He's looking out for his sister. He does have these... Family connection is, like, part of who he is.
Yeah.
In a way that it's not for either Bitch or Alec.
Yeah. But maybe more in sort of a, like, acts of service way than necessarily warmth.
Right, that's true. And he doesn't necessarily expect anyone to look out for him.
Yeah. That also makes it interesting that we had talked a few arcs ago how Brian and Lisa are kind of in the mom and dad of the group.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting thread to keep pulling on, especially when we ever learn about Lisa's family and what, you know.
I'm fascinated.
Yeah. Where she gets who she is, or, it's a very interesting
Yeah, because we
about.
have seen, like, Alec and Bitch have gone in such different directions. Like, Alec is not at all aggressive. He withdraws from every conflict, I mean, except in actual combat.
Right.
With, you know, other villains or heroes or whatever. And, yeah, Bitch withdraws, but in other ways. Like, if you challenge her at all, she'll poke back.
Yeah.
And, yeah, this thing where Alec... I guess I'm pivoting to talk about Alec a little bit now. This thing where Alec is like, well, if he comes after me, I'll just leave. And then at some point, Taylor's like, well, what if things turn out badly with Coil? Like, would we be able to get away? And Alec's like, I mean, I escaped from my dad. I assume I could escape from Coil. There's almost like it doesn't really matter what situation he's in because he can always just leave. He's not putting down roots anywhere. He's not going to be tied to any specific place, like, or any people. Like, he is going to, you know, go along with stuff. He will stay if it's a good enough situation for him. If it isn't, or if there's some threat like his dad coming, then he'll just leave.
That's such an interesting angle on his level of investment so far, because I think he comes across as like, oh, he's a lazy teenage boy who just wants to, like, lay on the couch,
which is sort of
or whatever.
True. That's his defense mechanism.
And that is true. But if he were to get more invested in the planning or the future of the group, it would make it harder to have that, like, oh, well, I can just leave, you know.
What they really are, Bitch and Alec, are fight and flight. Bitch will fight and Alec will fly.
That's a good observation. Yeah.
Bitch will fight back. She also is someone who will just leave if a situation is not to her liking. But I think that the aggression is really a differing factor between her and Alec.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did your view of Alec change learning this? Oh my God.
So harrowing. I mean, my prediction was that he was going to be the son of a hero.
Yeah.
And that he was like a rebellious teenager who was like, oh, all this pressure to be like good, and I don't think I can live up to my parents' example, so I'm going to go in the other direction. It's like, oh, I can't pass the test, I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
And it turns out absolutely not. Like, no, that it is completely the opposite. And I think it is, like you were saying, he comes across as this sort of lazy teenager when the laziness and the withdrawal and the apathy are an extreme trauma response.
Yeah.
He was raised in this, like, horrific cult environment where these women have been like manipulated via superpowers to be in love with this man, Heartbreaker. And the women were so, like, their emotions had been so skewed by Heartbreaker's power, they didn't care about their children.
Yeah.
They were having children for him, but they didn't care about them. They didn't pay attention to them. They were only focused on Heartbreaker, which, like, even aside from the gross violation and, like, distortion of your humanity that would come from, you know, this forcible love that's, like, imposed upon them, it's not even, like, they aren't made to love him and then they get to be with him. They're made to love him and then, like, a dozen of them have to be, they have to share the one object of their affection with these other women. That it must be such an unhappy life.
Yeah.
They're made to want only one thing and then all they get are little scraps.
Yeah, and he uses them to, like, you know, steal and commit other crimes and, like...
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And Alec, it does seem like he was... Like, they had all the money they wanted. They didn't have to do any chores. They didn't have to go to school. So in some ways, they were spoiled in, like, an indulgent way. And then in other ways, like, they seem to have never been shown affection or even attention aside from these, like, tests and punishments that Heartbreaker would give out.
Yeah,
Trying
right.
to get them powers, yeah.
Right. It didn't matter if they went to school. It did matter if they left, but not because they were cared for. They were just sort of, like, things that
right, they were possessions.
Heartbreaker was collecting.
Can Alec read?
That's a good question.
I'm really curious. Like, I mean, you can learn how to read not in school, but, like, did anyone teach him?
Yeah. That's a really... It puts another angle on the, like, I'm not smart like you guys that he said a few arcs ago.
No. Speaking of heartbreaking.
Yeah. The thing, like, it sounds like Alec's experience and his siblings' experience was similar to Heartbreaker's, you know, harem, but the emotion was fear, right? He talks about how Heartbreaker uses his power to basically fill them with so much terror that, you know, to the point of, like, paralyzing them, you know, if he gets insulted or offended or just if they look at him the wrong way, right? It's absolutely... I
mean, incredibly abusive, like really awful situation.
You're right. Incredibly abusive situation. And he doesn't go into detail, but we know that according to Alec, trigger events are the worst day of your life.
Yeah.
Right? And
sounds like he had a lot of bad days.
Yeah, and you say, like, on birthdays and stuff, starting from the age of 8, all those kids have been through a lot. We don't get any details on it, but the stuff that was being done to them is probably truly, truly awful to think about, to try and, like, create a power.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder, we don't hear at all about his siblings, except when he's like, yeah, he might send, you know, my siblings after me or something. I wonder if there are bonds there.
Yeah.
He doesn't say, when he's like, you know, I might as well leave, he doesn't say anything about feeling anything about leaving his siblings behind. That doesn't mean he doesn't feel anything about it.
Right.
But I was also thinking, like, growing up in this environment where your feelings can be imposed upon you, I bet his relationship with his own feelings is incredibly mistrustful.
Yeah.
Like, he talks about his dad, in order to push his boundaries, like, you know, his dad wanted to make him beg to, like, stop something so that his dad would have leverage over him.
Yeah.
And so he pushed him to kill someone, and I guess Alec did, and his dad was like, wasn't happy with how he did it or something. So he's like, you have to kill someone else. And Alec says that he told himself at the time that he didn't care about the people. I don't know if he did kill the second person or just the first. And he's like, yeah, maybe I didn't care. Maybe I still don't. I don't know. I thought that was so telling. Like, I bet he doesn't know. I bet he doesn't know how to interpret his own feelings.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Like, when
that's
your
so
feelings
sad.
are sometimes externally imposed, when you don't have anyone to help you with the feelings that aren't, when you're being completely emotionally neglected, like, how would you know how to deal with feelings?
Yeah, and that just conjures to mind one of his other big character beats to date, when he steps up to Bakuda and is like, oh, that was kind of interesting what you did, where he has the no reaction to...
I mean, that actually makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually mean he was okay with it, because he does say, he's like, my dad did stuff that, like, pushed against my conscience.
But he's disaffected.
He knows how to handle someone like Bakuda.
Yeah.
He knows how to relate to someone who doesn't want you to have any emotional responses, or not any emotional responses that aren't directly caused by him, you know?
Yeah. That's also fascinating that, right, Heartbreaker probably sees emotion in his kids as something that he owns and gets to control.
Yeah.
So actually, there's a little bit of resistance in just being like, well, I'm not going to feel anything.
Yeah. And Alec has been incredibly unaffected in general.
Yeah.
Which sort of comes off as like, I'm a teen, I don't care about anything. But like, he really hasn't shown that he cares about much of anything. I think the most we saw from him maybe was when he was getting incensed on Taylor's behalf about the bullies.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that did ping anything in his upbringing for him. Because he was kind of like, you can get back at them, but like, has he ever tried to get back at his dad?
That's really interesting.
I'm curious now. I would be interested to reread that in light of what we just learned.
I think you're right that is something that was an unusually emotional scene for Alec.
At least very
to what
like,
we've seen so far.
Showing an opinion in a way that he doesn't usually.
Yeah. That could also be, though, just like it's a little bit of projection. It's sort of like he couldn't fight back.
Right.
And he's what he's asking Taylor is like, well, why didn't you? Why didn't you? You know, like, it seems like it would be so much easier for you than it was for me.
Right. These girls don't have powers.
Yeah.
Like, they can't manipulate your emotions. They don't have like a whole, well, I guess they do sort of have a pack of women who are devoted to them. At least girls who are devoted to them who'll do their every bidding.
Yeah. I mean, just to take a detour into the second murder reveal.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about it? Taylor's like, was that forgivable?
Prediction.
Taylor.
Taylor.
He'd been made to do it.
Was that forgivable?
No moral compass to go by. But the way he described it didn't sit well with me. Cold-blooded murder. Like...
I mean, on the one hand, get it together, Taylor. This kid is describing a story of, like, intense abuse in which he was basically forced to kill someone.
Yeah.
And you're like, that doesn't sit well with me. Well...
yeah, his whole situation shouldn't sit well with you.
No, I mean, I don't think it does.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I do understand, like, her being disturbed by it because, like, even if you could say, like, of course it wasn't his fault, like, he was in this situation, like, he is the product of that situation now, and he's someone who is powerful and currently independent. How is he going to carry that trauma forward?
Yeah.
How is he going to behave with the power that he has and with the potentially increased power that he's going to have if they're controlling this territory?
Yeah.
Like, the line between victim and perpetrator, like, you can be both. And the fact that he had to tell himself for so many years that he didn't care about the bad things he was doing is something it's worth considering for her as she moves forward as his ally. Like, how is he going to treat the people under their rule, like, if they control this territory?
Yeah.
I think that's a legitimate concern. He has not shown himself to be someone who's going to push his agenda at the expense of others' agendas. So, like, if Lisa and Brian and Taylor don't want people to be mistreated, like, he's not gonna, like, push back against that super hard, probably. But he maybe is someone who she won't be able to trust, ethically speaking.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, and maybe less evil and more amoral.
Right. I mean, he was raised to be amoral.
Right.
And is he going to be able to make something different of himself? He doesn't seem to be trying very hard to make something different of himself.
Yeah. It's interesting the way I think he reflects sort of like, we'll make a lot of money and I kind of figured I'd hold territory or something similar one day, so I'm in. Right. Which is so interesting to me because that is not exactly what Coil promised him, right? Like, Coil was really trying to go for this, like, status story.
Oh, yeah, he didn't touch it in this.
This feels a lot more like, I guess, it makes sense, and money's
like, whatever,
good.
this is chill.
Yeah.
It's more his unaffected, like, he's not willing to be like, no, actually, I really want to be grand and great. Which, like, given who his father is, I'm actually not sure that he would want to, like, imitate him or, like, follow in his footsteps.
Right. And that's a very much, like, it is a little bit similar to your, like, Prince theory of kind of like, oh yeah, well, my role, I was born into this, so I guess of course I'll be a supervillain who controls territory one day. Like, I guess. Sure.
Yeah.
Another thing that really stood out to me about his emotional state is like, he's like, I don't want to talk about this. And then both Taylor and Lisa kind of like gang up on him. It's like, no, you have to talk. And I felt like it was honestly very like sibling aggression of them. It's like a little bit, I feel like bullying is a loaded word to use in the context of the themes of this work, but like they're kind of like they're really pushy to get him to open up.
True.
But then once he opens up, he doesn't seem to have difficulty sharing.
No,
or
that's
like
true.
So maybe it was what he wanted to open up, and he wanted a little bit of time to share it, but it's so tough to know what's actually going on with him because of his lack of affect.
I think, there's definitely a layer of it where it's like, no. Your allies need to know what they're facing if, like, you have family that could come after all of, like, it's fair for them to push for that information.
But, like,
the emotional piece is trickier.
Will he be annoyed at them that they were pushy or not? Right? Like...
I don't know. I feel like annoyance, or at least anger, is not an emotion that he chooses to have very well. I think he would prefer not to emotionally engage in that way, is sort of my impression. It did seem like he was fine talking about it, but like a little bit irritated, and like maybe I suspect he was covering for a lot. Like he was not being emotionally open in this. I mean, I don't know that he knows how to be emotionally open, but I do wonder what elements of it would actually bring up emotions if he was to talk about them, if there are any. And like he has no expectation that the Undersiders will fight with him, right? Like Gru brings it up and he's like, yeah, I guess. Right? There's like, again, no reaction. He's never had anyone on his side. Yeah. But like, doesn't really... Right. Yeah. Would that be moving to him? Will he be thinking, like, is that something, right? Like, it's very interesting. I feel like that's something where over time, he could potentially build up a connection with them, because presumably that is something that on some level he wants. Like, I feel like that's a pretty fundamental human thing, wanting to connect to other humans, and it seems like a desire he's probably really... I mean, at this point, he doesn't even have to think about suppressing, but I do wonder if that will get awakened. And we already had one of the most interesting things to me on the reread was seeing, because I feel like a lot of the Alec beats that we've talked about are ones that like I was like paying attention to in his arc as we got to hear. But the one that stood out on a reread that was like a little bit of a surprise was when he saves Gru in the Bakura fight. Oh, that's He knocks himself out to get the Jeep to swerve away. Yeah. And to me, I was like, oh, that shows, considering what I know from him in this chapter, it's like, actually, there is a connection there, right? Yeah. Like, maybe it's just he wants to do a good job on the team, but it could be deeper than that. Yeah. I think also he talks about what his dad is doing, like pushed my limits, made me do stuff that was dangerous, stuff that was hard on my conscience. Yeah. He's basically saying like, I had a conscience and I, didn't want to do some of these things. Yeah. Yeah, he actually is surprisingly forthright about a lot. Right. Yeah. He's not emotionally open, but he's pretty open. Informationally open. Yeah. Yeah. Even sort of a dispassionate analysis of himself, he's relatively open. I was thinking, like, we had that little throwaway line about how Gallant, like, wears power armor to seem like a tinker. And I'm like, well, no wonder. Oh, yeah, it doesn't want to seem like Heartbreaker. If you have a power similar to Heartbreaker's, no wonder. Oh my gosh. And then we had Canary in the last interlude, and we were like, everyone's being so mean to Canary. But again, no wonder. Her power is about, like, controlling people. It is like, really scary. We have a notorious... like nationwide, if not worldwide, dude in Heartbreaker. You're rooting for the other masters, Heartbreaker. Well, yeah, I mean, right. But it really is... It's so dependent on the wielder of the power. Yes. Right? Their personality. Yeah, some people just want to be pop stars. Their reputation. Some people want to be serial rapists and, like, mind imprisoners. Like... Yeah. It's, oof. It is honestly like one of the worst things you can imagine. Yeah. Being this cult leader, like one of the worst offenses against humanity. Yeah. It's also like these women are probably never going to be free from his power. If he got caught and sent to the birdcage, they would probably just be devastated for the rest of their lives. Right. And I wonder if it would eventually weaken. Yeah, did it say something like the longer they're in his presence? I don't remember if it said that. It might have. Yeah. I think there was something about, like, let me just look. He just needed to be near you and the effects were long-term or permanent. So, I mean, maybe permanent to date, but it's... Right. I don't think Alec would know if they would ever fade. Because, I mean, it's not like this woman were away and this is Taylor's exposition. It's not even what Alec's saying about it. Right. This is her understanding of the power. Right. So, hopefully they would fade, but, like, we have no reason to think he's going to be arrested anytime soon. Yeah. I wonder what Dragon would do to deal with him. I mean, they couldn't have him in a courtroom. Yeah. Do you think Armsmaster's psychic shielding would work against him? I hope so.
Right. Yeah, and it's also just like, how quickly does it work? You know, like, do people know where he lives? Like, how close could you stomach living to Heartbreaker's town? He probably has like a cult encampment somewhere in Canada.
Yeah.
We finally get confirmation that Alec is from Montreal.
That's true. Yeah.
I think I accidentally spoiled this for you months ago, thinking that it had come up.
If I had remembered that, I wouldn't have guessed that he was from Chicago. I'm so disappointed. I really liked that theory.
Yeah.
I'm also disappointed that poor Alec had like the worst childhood ever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really rough. Yeah.
Like Alec says, he shouldn't need to go through a tough trigger event because he's a second-generation cape. And yet, apparently, what his dad routinely put them all through would have been horrible enough to be a trigger event for anyone.
Right, right. Yeah, this is one, like, Heartbreaker's Power is a good example of taking that sort of, well, I'm going to think really carefully about superpowers and what it would be like if they existed in the real world. Is like someone would do this. Right, but in, like, a much less fun way than, like, what are the cool things that you could do with bugs.
I hope Heartbreaker gets his downfall in this story. I mean, I don't even know if he'll be in the
exactly. Like, this is excellent characterization for Alec. We do sort of get a little bit of the, like, oh, you know, Heartbreaker's possessive, so, like, there's, like, a little bit of a plot hook there, maybe.
Right. He could come after him.
Yeah.
Kill him.
What else should we get into in this chapter?
Ooh, well, we should probably touch on some of the SomeBuzz.
Oh my gosh. I think the buzz is Taylor's feelings for Brian. She's feeling that buzz.
The buzz is the vibrator she's going to have to use to deal with those feelings.
Yeah. I don't think... just given who Taylor seems to be, I don't
She doesn't own a vibrator.
She owns a vibrator. No. I think the idea of one she would find deeply shameful.
I'm sure there are many 15-year-olds who are ready for that. She doesn't seem to be one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's, I mean, this is, I guess, again, her going for it. You know, I don't know. She doesn't have as many qualms.
Right, well, she and Brian already have had a relatively good relationship. I guess she has no reason not to date him now. Like, in her thinking in the previous, or the chapter at the end of the last arc, she was kind of like, you know, I didn't expect anything beyond friendship, but, like, clearly it's there in her. It's there as something she's considered. And even if she's not willing to say that she expects or even hopes for it, I'm pretty sure that a part of her is hoping for it. And now there's no real reason to hold back, except for, you know, she doesn't know if he's interested in her.
Yeah. There was an interesting thing to think about, if it has any thematic resonance, in their sparring match, right? It goes into some details about, you know, like, Brian's bigger and stronger and more experienced, and Taylor's putting up a bit of a fight. But there's a bit where she's like, okay, well, here we are, and, like, if I do this, you'll counter me. If I do that, you'll counter me. So, tell me what I should do. And he's like, well, maybe you wait until the next thing I do, and then you exploit that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting kind of, you know...
I picked up on that as like, ooh, this has larger plot implications.
Right. Is it reframing passivity as, like, lying in wait? Yeah. Is it like having to bide your time?
The Aaron Burr argument.
Unless you're okay with escalation, right? Like... You know,
right, because he says you could get a weapon, and she's like, well, I don't see anything here that I could use in sparring practice.
Yeah.
I would do too much damage, or, you know.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting.
Right, there's nothing I could grab that would work for sparring without really hurting you. I guess I do what you're doing, wait for the other guy to make a move. Which, yeah, I am curious to see how that's going to come into play in a plot sense.
Yeah.
Because it felt very symbolic.
I mean, I feel like there are a lot of nice little character beats in this chapter, but I do really feel like what I said at the beginning, we reestablished the Undersiders dynamic, right? Like, Lisa's kind of teasing them, Brian and Taylor are, like, flirting a bit.
Brian's instructive.
Right. Brian's, like, tries to be reasonable, bitch is, like, really antisocial, right? Like, we kind of hit all of those beats, and it really reestablishes the dynamics. When they're talking about saying yes to Coil, they all do it in a very character-typical way.
Yeah. Alec calls Brian the team leader.
Yeah.
I think that's the first real acknowledgement we've had of what I had assumed was an unofficial role.
Yeah.
But maybe he is actually
It's
the
very
leader?
Interesting.
Like, he did represent them at that, you know, villain
Summer's
route.
Rock moot.
Yeah. But I had assumed that was him being the leader for the world. And like, we have talked about how he doesn't have more of a say in what the group does. Like, he was the only one who didn't want to do the gala heist.
Yeah, but saying something like, this should be by consensus, and having everyone go along with it is that's leader stuff.
He's almost like, it's like he's sort of a team leader in like the work sense. Like he's the leader, but he's not managing any of these people. Like the boss is managing everyone. That's right. But he is sort of a, like, you know, some sort of supervisor.
Yeah. No, he's a team lead. He's not a manager. I think that's a good read on Brian. At least he's not a good manager. At least a bitch in particular.
Well, that's true. But yeah, he does take that logistical role in conversation of like, okay, here's the conversation we should have, and here's how I think what the parameters should be. And yeah.
One really interesting thing about Brian and Alec is Taylor remarks to herself, Alec actually has a year or two seniority on Brian. Like,
as a cape.
Right? Even though he's so many years younger. Right. Which is wild to think about. And like, it probably isn't like undermining or threatening to Brian just because he's so much younger in age. Yeah. But it is a really interesting thing to be like, oh, I thought, you know, I've been doing this for a couple of years and Alec's been doing it for 3 or 4. Like, whoa. Like seeing him in a whole new light, you know.
Yeah, well, Brian has been doing it for 3 years, right? And Alec has been doing it for 3 or 4, so maybe he has seniority. I think it's unclear.
Actually, it might be pretty much the same. Yeah,
because Alec doesn't really know how old he is because he didn't go to school, and
that was
no one kept records.
Such a sad detail.
Yes. Yeah, really, really grim. I just didn't expect it. Like you said, you think like, oh, kind of a spoiled, lazy teen. And he was spoiled, but in really, really dark ways.
Right.
Not through an excess of indulgence.
Right.
Well, not through an excess of like really, really negligent indulgence.
Yeah. Another little bit. We didn't get a ton of direct follow-up on the conversation with Danny, but Lisa mentions it. We had remarked Lisa and Brian were pretty pro-Danny, and Brian is kind of like, oh, is everything okay there? Right. Taylor looks to Lisa when Brian asks about it, and Lisa gives a very, like, matter-of-fact explanation. And I feel like he's kind of trying to minimize or paper over how dramatic it all was. So, we don't really get a lot from Taylor what she's feeling about it. But I guess my hunch is like maybe in that moment when she's looking to Lisa, she's like maybe not trusting herself to say it or just kind of hoping. I think
she doesn't. She's like, doesn't want to get into it. Fill him in. I don't want to have to.
Yeah.
It's probably a thing where like, when you have like active emotional drama going on in your life and you try to tell someone about it and it takes you like half an hour to say it. And then 6 months later it'll be like, oh yeah, this happened. You have like one sentence for it. Yeah. Like I feel like she's still maybe in that stage of it also where like there's no quick way for her to summarize.
Yeah.
And it would just be too hard to say.
I'd be curious if either Lisa and Brian follows up with her about Danny. You know, it doesn't necessarily make sense to do it right away.
Maybe not very soon, right? Yeah, but like I'm sure they both are invested in this relationship for her, I think.
Yeah, given that bit at the end of Arc 4 when everyone was taking care of her and they're on the couch, they got to kind of see.
And neither of them has this in, like, none of the rest of them have this in their lives.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently Hijack was Alec. I was wrong. Not someone who controls machines.
Yeah. That was kind of a.
That was like when you asked me about Bug. And I was like, oh.
Sometimes capes have multiple names or they change their names. You know, just stuff happens.
Also, I'm worried about Taylor's knees.
Oh?
Yeah. She's like, if my knees could talk, they'd be screaming in agony right now. Because, like, they had to jump off the building or whatever. And then she went running this morning and now she's sparring. I'm like, Taylor, no. You don't want to be hard on your knees. Yeah. You're like 15. Don't ruin your knees now.
Yeah. All right. A couple more little things. We can wrap up. One is, I think it's not just Alec who isn't really talking about personal reasons for going along with Coil. Taylor doesn't really talk about what she wants. Again, it's a little unclear what she wants. And Brian doesn't talk about, like, because Brian and Lisa, I think, have already said yes, kind of, right?
Sort of, yeah.
Right, like, Brian doesn't explicitly say, like, well, my hand's being forced because I need to, you know, right, I need to do this other thing. Or maybe he's not worried about saying no and having that spoil his arrangement with Coil, you know.
He probably is. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons that he's upset that Bitch is, like, backing out on it.
I just thought it was so interesting. Coil wanted to make it so personal. And here they're all just, like, thinking about it. Like, oh, does it make sense for us as a team? Like, yeah, I guess, you know,
they're not saying it.
No, of course. Yeah. Of course. They're not saying it, but it's just so interesting that whatever work Coil managed to do or not do behind the scenes, it's just
they're keeping it internal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Internal for now, at least.
It is fascinating that he offered Bitch this thing that she presumably would want, but she doesn't trust it.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't think Taylor, like Taylor said, she's not going to try to talk Bitch around in this excursion, but I feel like moving that emotional dial is going to be key.
I thought this was so interesting because with Sundancer, when she talks to her in Arc 5, she's like, oh, I need to boost our team's status, so I'm going to make small talk and like maybe they'll like us. They won't think of the Undersiders as bad. And here she's very much flipping that. She's saying, no, I want to connect with Bitch and I explicitly don't have an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
And I did have a little thought like, really? Like she's not thinking, if I'm nice to Bitch, will she change her mind? Right?
I'm sure she is.
Right.
On some level.
Right. On some level.
Nothing will change with Bitch if no one reaches her emotionally. So.
Right. So it's very interesting because Lisa is definitely, she says explicitly, well, when we talk about this later, maybe you'll be more open. And Taylor steps in and is like, that's not how this works. We're going to bond. And, but I have to believe, right, she's in the same mindset as Lisa. Is like, someone has to reach out and that's how we'll get what we want.
She also just had this experience where Danny was like, oh, you don't want to talk to me? I'm locking you in a room and we're gonna talk about it. And it resulted in Taylor leaving. Like, I don't know that she's consciously making this comparison, but I think she's completely right that the way to reach Bitch is not by attacking head on with this. It's by finding emotional inroads. Like, it's by strengthening the connection and not trying to force her hand. And I think things with Danny would have gone better if Danny had done that.
Yeah. Well, I think the last thing is just the last line of the chapter. She's going to go hang out with Bitch.
I'm so excited.
This wasn't something I was going to regret. Which is another, to me, it's the start of an arc, not just a transition to the next chapter theme.
I'm sure there'll be bigger things that happen in the arc, but I would love just an arc that's focused on Taylor Bitch friendship formation.
Yes.
It would be so good. I really want Taylor to do some research. I don't know if she's going to. Maybe she's just going to pick it up as she goes, figure out what works with Bitch and what doesn't. My prediction is that Bitch will not take her free shot.
Okay. That's a nice specific prediction.
Yeah.
Taylor will not be annoying or
at least by the end of the day. I mean, Taylor's not going to bring up the thing first. That's easier for her to control. And I think by the end of the day, Bitch will not have ill will towards her.
I love this for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think the next chapter is just going to be character stuff?
Yeah, I think we're going to go see the dog warehouse. And,
amazing.
And I think they'll have some interactions. I do feel like something else is going to have to happen.
Well, what do you see happening in the arc?
Yeah, let's see. Coil gave them a week, which is a long time in worm time, but they still are working for Coil. He's still the boss. So even though they don't have to make the decision for a week, I bet he is going to have a job for them, partially because he wants them to do a job for him, and partially because he wants to kind of get in there and be able to maybe talk to them again, make sure they're, butter them up, get them on board with his plan. And I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up fighting some of Empire 88, which seems like the obvious target.
Good stuff. Yeah.
But I think I did predict that the new hero leader would come in. Did I say this arc? I think
yes.
I did. Yeah. So maybe
why not both? Two problems is more exciting than one.
That's such a good point. Pit them against each other.
We do have some new names.
Okay.
In the next chapter.
All right. Let's hear them.
Sirius.
That's a dog.
Rollo.
Definitely a dog.
Oh, we'll see.
How do you have a character named Sirius who isn't a dog?
Yeah.
Unless it's spelled Serious.
No.
Okay,
no.
I'm going to predict Sirius and Rollo's powers if they were capes or perhaps paracanines. I think Sirius glows in the dark.
Adorable.
And I think that Rollo can jump in the air and then do full flips, roll over in the air.
Amazing.
Yeah, neither of these is useful in combat, but they're dogs, so it's
adorable.
Fine.
Yeah, no wonder Bitch treasures them and keeps them in a warehouse paradise. I mean, I'm not confirming anything. Yeah, well, I'll read you the sentence, but I don't think it's going to change much about your prediction.
Yeah.
Bitch led the way as we traced a winding
path to the first warehouse.
Probably.
Path away
Probably
from
something
the
like
loft.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it next time.
On Inchworm.
Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildvote. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.